cryotherapy is a cold treatment on the body, right? And you see, now, the more popular version of it is where you see people getting into the chambers with the cold air and the cool effects and stuff like that. There's whole body, there's targeted treatment as well, which is what I mostly specialized in because of my background in sports therapy. And then the other forms of cryotherapy is ice, right? That was like the normal stuff that was used back in the day. Cold baths, plunge pools are coming back into fashion, I guess you would say.
I've been seeing them everywhere.
Yeah. So that one, excuse me, so that one, like cryo in general is cold therapy. How one chooses to apply it and at what degree or temperature or format, it varies. So that's the basis of cryo.
Okay, very helpful.
Yeah.
For most people, I would argue, they learned about, if they've heard about it at all, I think most people would have first learned more surrounding the beauty space. It sort of was new to me to think about it in terms of recovery. I feel like you hear about cryotherapy like fat freezing and, you know, how to lose weight. And that's always what's been pushed in more, you know, social media or even mainstream media. So I love that that's not all you're about. There's a lot more benefits to it. But what would you sort of describe like the biggest differences if you're using it for beauty versus for wellness or recovery?
So, well, with my background being a sports therapist, when I first brought it on and brought it into Boston, I was, I think, one of the first, if not the first. So I knew of it from a recovery standpoint.
Yeah.
It actually didn't exist in beauty when we first brought it in.
Interesting.
I think when it went into the wellness side of things was probably around 2018-ish. But the difference is it's all, this is where my mind goes. It all, like if you think of the science, you bring it back to the science, right? So originally when they brought it in or when it was looked at for recovery, which is when I discovered it originally, it's to speed up the recovery process. The science behind that is because of the effects it has on the metabolic system of the person that's being used on.
Okay.
So if you contribute that to beauty and wellness, it's the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
How does it affect the collagen of the skin, right? So it was argued for sports recovery, how it speeds up recovery in time, right? That's because you're affecting the metabolic system of the athlete or the person using it. Once you're speeding up blood flow, your blood is the oil of our body and it carries everything that we need. So it's helping production of collagen or so that would speed up, for example, helping in an injury. I'm trying to keep it very basic at this point, and then if you apply that to skin, right, it's anti-aging. Same thing. And if you apply, fat freezing in general is you're speeding up the metabolism, but you're also, the way that the fat freezing works is if you're targeting the fat cells, so they'll do the treatment on a specific area of, like, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, fatty area that you want to reduce fat on. It kills away those fat cells. They drain away over time through your lymphatic system, much like if you were to burn them in working out. So it all comes back to the science, but then the wellness industry took it over and marketed it in such a way that it's like fat freezing, like, you know, do all this. And it does work, and it does help, like, with anti-aging and stuff. But it just, how it's marketed.
Just how you said, like, more targeted. So you can do it towards fat or you can do it on the muscles. Like, it's really depending on the placement and where it is, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And in sports recovery, when you're doing it on a targeted area, the majority of the time when you want to reduce pain, it's to reduce the inflammation. So the cold pulls the inflammation out of the area. The reason why modern cryo is so much more popular than icing is because it's a lot colder, but it's a lot faster. So you're getting results a lot quicker.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the baseline of it. I don't know if, did that help? Okay.
That's so helpful. All
right.
I kind of have an out-of-pocket question for you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. So if like you're not sure about this, we can toss this question out. But I thought you might. So I wanted to ask you, I'm wondering how, like, these two things are related. So I think that it's kind of common knowledge. Like a lot of people say, you know, when you're drinking water, it's better to have it at room temperature because when you have ice water, sometimes it can be a little bit of a shock or jarring to the body. And I saw this video the other day of this girl kind of talking about it and going into more detail. And mainly because everyone is like with the Stanleys and the Yetis. I am guilty. Mine's right in front of me. And she was saying how, you know, she challenges you to drink 2 days the same amount of water. One day it's ice cold, the next day it's room temperature. And notice how much you're going to the bathroom, and you would find that you actually pee more when you have ice water. And she was saying that the reasoning was because when it shocks the body like that a little bit, it doesn't absorb it. It just wants to get it out. So a lot of people think like, oh, I'm so hydrated. Look how much I'm drinking. I have to pee so much. But really, you're not absorbing as much as you could if it was room temperature. Okay, so with that in mind, if quote unquote, it's like more beneficial to have room temperature water when you're drinking it, how does it make sense that using something like an extreme cold temperature cryotherapy would be beneficial on things like our muscles or our, you know, outer body, I guess?
Yeah, so I actually love that question because in sports, which is what I very much specialize in, this is like has been the ongoing topic in general. Like, is it a good form or a good modality to use? Is it safe? Is it even worth it? And this is kind of where cryo gets a bad rap because it really comes down to the basic knowledge of the person that's applying it or the people that's behind it. So if we're doing cryotherapy, let's just say in sports recovery, what I really have always pounded on about, to be honest, but like I just didn't really notice the importance of it at the time, but it's definitely a key factor now, is timing. So if you're using it for sports recovery, so to your comparison there, like how would it be healthy? One, to reduce inflammation, depending if that's what you need to do or want to do. So like you'll get people that's in pain, that have joint pain and stuff like that. Where there's pain, no matter what it is, even if it's a stomach ache, there's inflammation. Have you ever found when you're really sick, you want like an ice cold water?
Yes.
Does it make you feel better?
Yes.
Because you're in a state that's a little bit heightened, it's a little bit more inflamed, and it soothes the area. It soothes your stomach. Or if I have like a migraine, I'll want cold water, or I'll put a cold flannel in the back of my neck. Or when I had cryo or the cryo devices, I would put cryo on, it would instantly go away.
Okay.
So if you're in a state of pain, there's inflammation present. Now, think about that as emotions, right? So like if you're like in a state of pain, like you're annoyed, you're heated, right? That's like a term, like I'm heated, right?
Yeah.
There's real things behind that. So like when you're doing like a whole body, so I'm trying to keep it very generic here, but when they talk about like it helping with depression and stuff like that, it's because it's a readjusting your body's hormones in a sense, like to be able to, it's recalibrating everything. So it's taking like the temperature down, right? Okay. So like your endorphins will get flowing a lot more because it's like your heartbeat's raised and you're in a cold environment and you're like feeling like a little bit challenged. It's like fight or flight. So to apply it externally like that, it depends on the timeliness of it, but it also like, it does matter, but again, it depends on how you're applying it and the timeliness of it in general. So I just repeated myself so much on that.
No. That actually makes perfect sense to me. And so it's like, not that her information is necessarily wrong, but it's based on the assumption that you're at, your true baseline and you're in, feeling your best self, quote unquote, where that way it would make sense, because if you're in pain or inflammation, then that's when it's appropriate.
Or nauseous or anything like, and that's when it's used. And in wellness overall, like hyper wellness, they call it these days, like it's to be able to keep yourself in that like flowy, happy, free flowing state. Like, and so it's it's the chase of endorphins really when they use it in wellness a lot. In sport, that's a whole other topic. That's like how really important timing of it. Like if they're doing strength and conditioning training, we might not want to do cryo. This is like new studies that are showing this stuff in comparison. You might want to do heat, or we might want to do room temperature. So temperature matters, and she's not wrong. It's just timing. It's what you need. Because sometimes I like to drink room temperature water, to be honest. And everyone's like, oh, you love everything cold. But like not always true. Yeah. And it's not always good for you. If you want your body to be more pliable, actually, well, you even know a brand that talks a lot about probably pliability and stuff like that. But it's real. Like you probably wouldn't want to drink cold. You would want to keep it room temperature.
Okay, good to know. You are like a little encyclopedia over here. You're just full of information. That was really helpful. You broke it down for us lay people very well. I appreciate that. No worries. And I love to learn that there's not just the physical benefits from it, but emotional or mental health wise. How does that work then? So
back to the analogy of you're heated or you're a little bit down in the dumps, when that's happening, people, when they come out of like a whole body cryotherapy session or even a targeted one, to be honest, or even like if you're in pain, you don't feel right, you're like, oh, I'm sore, or your mood heightens immediately when you're out of pain.
Okay.
So that's where cryo gets used a lot and promoted a lot as if you're down or, you know, you're not feeling well, come into our place or whatever. And there's something behind it for sure, because if you're going to feel better and it's going to heighten your moods, and that's because of I don't want to go into too much, but that's in the background of what's going on, like chemically in your body. Your body goes into fight or flight if you're in a whole body cryo chamber, or if you're out of pain and you feel better immediately, then your mood's heightened. Yeah. So there is neurological benefits to it. And it's like any treatment. The more you do it, the more your body gets into a more conscious state regularly. You're kind of just training your internal body to respond and react differently. They even say like when people are depressed or they get into, you know, when we spiral, when we get a little bit upset and we spiral.
Been there.
We all do, same thing. And this is where cold plunging and stuff comes in, and you're seeing a lot of athletes and a lot of people in Boston I know that are doing it as well. It shocks you get out of that loop of downward spiral and thinking, and it shocks your body into like doing something else, thinking another way. But chemically, it's actually really adjusting you from the inside out mentally. It's like rewiring almost.